Some of the videos I've loved on motorcycle riding the most is videos on why we love motorcycling. And I've made one or two of those in the years past, but I'd like to make this one more about why I specifically, not just people in general, which I would fall under, but me as a person, an individual, why I love motorcycle riding. Because I had to get a motorcycle. I mean, even at 3 years, I broke down crying 3 different times that we parked in front of my dad's one of my dad's favorite liquor stores to get alcohol, and there was a yellow mini bike. So now this is like 1970, and I begged for that mini bike. And no, it's too dangerous. No, it's too dangerous. No, it's too dangerous. And then when I was about 15, I realized that you could ride a moped at 15 and a half. And I thought about that, but I thought, no, I'll just wait till I'm 16. I'll get a motorcycle. So I got my own money together. I had my own job. They used to have the photo buys, the actual hard copy magazines with all the photos of motorcycles that you could call the number. And it would be people in your area. Sometimes you'd have to drive a little ways, and you could go talk about the motorcycle, get all the details, and if you wanted to go visit them for a test ride or whatever, you could set that up. So I had my bike all picked out. I had the money to buy it, and I shared it with my parents. They said no. Why not? It's too dangerous. I'll wear a helmet. No. It's too dangerous. Especially the way you drive is too dangerous. So I said, fine. I waited about 4 months. I did it again. I went shopping, had the money, found the motorcycle I wanted, shared it with them. Because it would need to be, I was living with them, it would need to be parked, so I shared it with them again. No, we've said this before, no motorcycles. I'd wear gloves, boots, and a helmet, always good blue jeans. Nope. The way you drive, because I used to get a lot of tickets. They used to always send me letters saying you're in the top 3% of the most dangerous drivers in California. You get one more point, we're going to cancel your license. So I said, fine. And then about maybe 6 or 8 months later, I did it again. They said no. So now I'm 17, and I really wanted to, because I took a nice twisty canyon, Beverly Glen, over the hill from Los Angeles into Sherman Oaks, the valley, every day to go to Notre Dame High School. So I really wanted a motorcycle for senior year. So I'm like halfway through my junior year now. I just turned 17. My birthday is in early January. And I said, 3 strikes, you're out. I'm going to buy this. I already worked out with Sam. It was a nice, very fun-loving, genuine girl, short for Samantha, that lived around the corner on a street that they almost never drove down. And she agreed to let me park my motorcycle in her garage so my parents wouldn't see it. So once I bought it, I would end up parking it in that garage. I would go drive my Jeep over there, park my Jeep out front, get the motorcycle out, and take the motorcycle to high school and do the opposite on the way home. So I went out and bought this motorcycle on my own because I just had to have a motorcycle. There was no two ways about it. And the reason why is because as a kid, I loved a lot of sports and everything, but there was 3 things I was really drawn to from my earliest memories. One was the Native American culture. Just them being proud, proud warriors, being able to live off the land, hunt buffalo, because my father would always watch only three things: news, sports, or old westerns. And in the old westerns, they always had the Indians, and I would root for the Indians to win. I know that's the wrong term, politically incorrect these days, but that's what we called them back then. There was no political correctness in the early 70s. And so I love the Native American culture, Native Indians. I love I just was drawn and attracted always towards flight. Like I used to have dreams that I would hang glide over the playground at my elementary school and wave to the kids I knew. So I just loved the idea of flying. I would dream about it, literally dream at nighttime. And I was really, really attracted to the two things, those natives and flight combined in eagles and hawks. And I was always up alone, having to kill time alone in the mountains at my grandfather's ranch in the Malibu Mountains, and there's red-tailed hawks everywhere. And I'd watch their mating rituals. I'd watch the crows gang up on them and try to attack them because the red-tailed hawks eat their eggs. So the crows would always come at them in groups of 3 or 4 or even 5. And I would just love watching the aerial acrobatics, especially with their mating. They grip talons, and then they would fall straight to the ground holding talons. And the females testing the male's nerve. How much nerve and how much trust does this male have in his flying abilities? And they wouldn't let go of their talons until right before they hit the ground, and then they would separate. So that motorcycle riding to me represented a way to fly while still on land. So it was kind of like getting the experience of being in flight by cheating because you're still actually attached to Earth. And as soon as I got that motorcycle, I would ride Sunset. We lived by Sunset Boulevard, and Sunset Boulevard has big sweeping turns. It has a lot of traffic, so a lot of times I'd go out at 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock at night, just to get these big sweeping turns. And I would imagine it was similar to the feeling a hawk would have as it's making a big roundabout turn in the sky. So that was a lot of it to me. But I would date a lot back then, and so I would take these girls on the back, and they would often try to lean upright. You'd be leaning into a turn, and they'd lean the opposite direction, and you'd have to readjust the steering. So I would always tell them, imagine your spine as a pole implanted in the concrete. And now if an earthquake was to come and shift that earth on an angle, that pole would go wherever the earth, right? So just trust in the grippiness of those rubber tires, trust in my skill, and do not pull up when I lean into a turn. Imagine your spine being attached to that seat in the same way the pole is attached to the concrete. Wherever that seat goes, your spine goes with it. And that would usually work. They would get that concept, but it would still kind of scare them, and every now and then they'd flip out and pull up, and you'd have to readjust. But I've never lost that love for riding, and I don't think I ever will. It'll be a sad day when I have to hang up the helmet and the gloves and accept that I'm not old enough anymore. But it was good for my soul. On the way home from Tombstone, day before yesterday, I met these two older guys that had that ride with Legion members. They have Legion all over the back of their leather jackets. And I met Rebel that lives in Tombstone, and he also rides with Legion. So apparently it's a big thing in the south part of Arizona. But these guys were about 70, maybe even a few years beyond 70, and they were still riding. One of them was on a trike, but the other one wasn't. And they were only riding I'd say about 63, 65 miles per hour on the highway, where most vehicles are going 80 or more. So, and it's a 2-lane highway, so they'd be getting passed a lot by the 18-wheelers. But anyways, they ended up pulling into Denny's after me and got to talk to them for a little bit. That's why I love motorcycle riding, and never will stop riding, even after I have to hang up the gloves and the helmet and the boots. I'll be looking at photos and saying, oh, what great therapy, what fun that was. There you have it. God bless. Leave a comment, hit like. I'll talk to you later.